Correspondent Alex Miller in New York for us. Alex, many thanks. I want to go ahead and bring in civil litigation attorney and former federal prosecutor Mitchell Epner to break down some of the legalities involved here. Mitchell, we knew this civil fraud case ruling was coming. What do you make of this judgment, which includes hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties, bars Trump from running any companies in New York for 3 years, and appoints a monitor to make sure nothing shady is going on in the future?
So this was almost as bad as it could have happened for Trump. He is responsible for immediate payment of counting interest, $460 million. He has to put that money up if he wants to take an appeal and stay this ruling during the course of the appeal. He's banned from his companies. His children, his 2 adult sons are banned from the companies. It was awful. The only thing that makes it less than an absolute wipeout is that the judge reversed himself on one important issue. He had previously ruled that the charters of all of the Trump corporations would be revoked, which would have essentially put them into forced liquidation. And he reversed that today, saying that putting the 2 tiers of monitors in over these companies means that he does not have to revoke those corporate charters. So I would say this was an awful, awful day for Donald Trump, but it could have been a little bit worse.
Yeah, I remember some reporting saying that this judge could have chosen to dissolve these companies, but we still see that there are a lot of punishments in this ruling. If you were one of Trump's attorneys, what is your next move here, Mitchell?
Well, if I were one of his attorneys, my next move would be to resign. But that's about me as a person. If I was in that role, the biggest thing I have to do right now is I have to get together the money in order to make certain that we can take an appeal without Attorney General Tish James sicking the sheriffs to seize all of the property out of the Trump real estate and take all of his bank accounts, because literally 30 days from now, they can start grabbing his cars and the sofas out of Trump Tower.
Yeah, this is something I was curious about, the mechanisms in place to make sure that the debt is paid. What sort of mechanisms exist to make sure that this money is paid?
So as a judgment creditor, the New York Attorney General can use all of the sheriffs in New York and all of law enforcement essentially across the country to seize any of Donald Trump's assets, any place that they can be found, unless he gets a stay of this ruling by A, taking an appeal, and B, putting all of that money up with the court, meaning that if he loses the appeal, the money gets immediately paid over to the attorney general, and Trump would have no more ability to block it from being handed over.
Very interesting stuff. Also on the civil front, 3 civil lawsuits holding Trump accountable for January 6th can move forward. Trump and his team missed the deadline to ask the Supreme Court about whether he's immune. My question here, was this a mistake by Trump's attorneys? Hard to get into mindset here, but could the calculus be we've got bigger problems right now?
So right now, if I'm Donald Trump and his attorneys, I have enormous problems on the criminal front that I'm asking the Supreme Court for help with. And on the civil front, even though they did not take an immediate appeal up to the Supreme Court, those rights are preserved. If he loses at trial, he could still make those arguments later. And I think the judgment probably was that they wanted to use all of their powder on the criminal case from the D.C. Circuit, which they're currently asking the Supreme Court to overturn what the D.C. Circuit said, which was that Donald Trump can be put on criminal trial.
Yeah. A lot of developments today. Mitchell Epner, as always, we appreciate you coming by to break all of this down. Former federal prosecutor. Many thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's my favorite thing to do on a Friday night.
That can't be true, but I appreciate you telling us anyway. To Fulton County, Georgia now, where today marked the second day of testimony in a hearing to determine if District Attorney Fani Willis should be disqualified from her election interference case against former President Trump. Willis, who'd been expected to take the stand again today, was not asked to testify. Prosecutors had no more questions for her after yesterday's combative 2-hour-long stint on the stand. Both she and her one-time romantic partner, Nathan Wade, testified that their personal relationship did not have any bearing on the case against Trump, and both insist there was no financial benefit in Willis hiring Wade as a special prosecutor on the case. Today, Fani Willis's father took the stand. He testified that he was not aware of the relationship between his daughter and Nathan Wade until just a few weeks ago. He also backed up Willis's on-the-record statements about the cash she kept at home and reportedly paid Wade with over the course of their relationship.
I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there, too, things I didn't want other lawyers to be, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions. So some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe. But I've always kept safes. And as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her always keep some cash.
We all know what professionalism looks like, what decorum looks like.
Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee says closing arguments will be scheduled within the next 2 weeks. He's privately reviewing text messages from Nathan Wade's former business partner to determine if those will be admitted into evidence. Still ahead tonight, another headline shocking people around the world. The face of Russian opposition is dead. Hear Alexei Navalny's widow's message to Russia's leaders and what his death means for the fate of Russia's stifled opposition. And Scripps News obtains new footage of a gunman months before he carried out his attack in Maine. The unsettling comments he made to police coming up next.